Let's go with jumper number 2. How about a jumper number 3? Let's go with jumper number 4. And jumper number 5. First of all, having a big round of applause for our finalists. Over here on the judge's right, tumblers left. All 5 of you are going to tumble from that corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we'll let you know who's moving on to the final round. Your best pass, number 1. Number 2. Same corner, number 2. Same corner. Same corner, Robert. Number 3.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Skees, and I am the Director of Media for TAPS. Thank you for joining us today for our Cheer preseason webinar. We're going to get started in just a few minutes, but first I've got a couple of housekeeping items to let you know about. So first things first, this webinar is being recorded. You're going to receive an email tomorrow with a link to that recording. We've got so many webinars this week and last week, it's just taken us a little bit longer to get those recordings done, but you will get that tomorrow. It's going to come to the same address that you used to register for today's presentation. Second, if you have questions, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. You're going to see a little drop down that says questions. You can type them in there. We will see them. We're going to try to answer those as we go through the presentation. But if we don't get to yours right away, there is a general Q&A at the end for us to do some cleanup. If email is easier for you, you can send us an email, info@taps.biz, during the webinar. We're keeping an eye on that inbox, and we're going to pass those questions on to our presenters. If we don't get to your question today, or if it's just too specific to answer appropriately in this venue, please send us an email after the webinar to info@taps.biz or call us at the office. Third, I've got a handout for you today. If you click on the little handouts drop down and go to webinar, you're going to see a PDF listed that it has your certificate for continuing education hours for today's presentation. If your school wants you to document that, that presentation is there for you. That certificate is there for you. It's also going to be included in the link tomorrow that's sent to you, so don't worry if you don't get it today, but it is there if you want it now. Joining us today from the TAPS office is Brian Bunselmeyer, TAPS Executive Director, Vina Williams, our Director of Fine Arts, Robert Huckabee, our Associate Director and Director of Compliance, Steve Prudhomme, Associate Director, and we've also got Will Dixon from the TAPS office. He's helping us out behind the keyboard today. We've also got Chris Henson from Express Cheer. He's going to help us explain some things to you, and you're going to hear from him a little bit later on. But before I hand it over to Brian to kick things off, I've got the first of a couple of questions that I would like to ask you folks. What is your main role on campus? Are you administration? Are you a fine arts coordinator or administrator? Are you a cheer coach? Are you other faculty or staff? Please let us know real quick. We're going to ask you a couple of questions like this throughout. It helps us understand who we're talking to live and who could be with us today. So please let us know. I'm going to leave this open for a little bit longer so we can get input from everybody. Mostly cheer coaches so far. Very good. I see a few more submissions coming in.
Thank you, John. Thank you to everybody for joining us here today. We know it's a strange time as we all get ready to go back to school. Some of you are going to be in person, some of you are going to be virtual, some of you aren't going to start until after Labor Day, kind of like back when I was a kid. So it's going to be a new year. It's going to be a different year. We've chosen the theme, embracing our challenges and exploring our opportunities. We know things probably won't be much similar to what they were last year, but we're going to try to bring as much normalcy as we can to this proceeding. We're so excited to have cheer and have that as an option for our young ladies and our young men who attend TAPS schools. It's been a few years in the making, and again, we are extremely blessed to have Chris Henson with Express Cheer coming back. Been here since the beginning, coming back to help us run the situation this year. Very excited about the educational opportunities that go along with cheer that he's going to be able to present along with being our Fine Arts Director. So just a quick reminder, my name is Brian Buntsmeyer. I'm the Executive Director. Steve and Robert are our Associate Director, and Vina is our Director of Fine Arts. If you have trouble with Rank 1 or anything else that needs questions answered, John is our Director of Media. Kelly and Rhonda are here in the office to help you with your Rank 1 and other questions. Will is going to be behind the keyboard, as John said, but he's also working on our event promotion. So thank you again for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Vina to explain a little bit about our committees and where they lead us.
Thanks, Brian. I just want to say a quick shout out to our current committee members. This will be our 7th year with cheer, and our committee leaders over the last 7 years have helped play an important role in helping us shape our competition. So thanks to those who already serve on the committee. Committee members help with reviewing the rules and the rubrics, as well as give input on how to grow our program, what's working, what's not working, and just help us kind of shape where we want TAPS cheer to go. Another important role of our leadership committee is to help mentor our TAPS coaches. If you're a new coach or just new to TAPS cheer competition, I can connect you with someone on our leadership committee to help you just kind of get an overall vision of how the season works, how to make cheer competition in your school with the TAPS season workout, and just different ways that you can grow your team, not just for competition, but overall as a school program. If you are interested in serving either as a mentor or on our leadership committee, just let me know. Send an email to info@taps.biz just expressing your interest, and I can get you more information about that.
And we do appreciate our leaders and the leadership that we get amongst the stakeholders here at TAPS, and their support and their hard work. And it's the reason why this event gets better and better each and every year. And again, they also give you that great feeling that you're not alone. And so again, reach out, connect to each other, and keep that going. But again, we do appreciate our committee members. Now moving on to governance, I'm going to hand it over to our Director of Compliance, Mr. Robert Huckabee.
Thank you, Steve. Welcome to everyone. Anytime you have questions about TAPS rules or governance or controlling documents, you can find those on our website. Just go to taps.biz on our main homepage. That menu at the top, if you'll look over to the right, there's a drop down called Resources. If you hover over that drop down, you'll see about the second item there is called Bylaws. If you'll click on that particular link, it will take you to a big Google Doc that has the Constitution and an outline of all the bylaws on there. Give it a couple of seconds. It's a big document. It takes a second to upload. But once you're there, you can see the Constitution. You'll find our general bylaws at the beginning section. Then it moves into the athletic bylaws, and then you get into fine arts, and more specifically, the program-specific items within fine arts. And as we move to fine arts, you'll see the general bylaws sections are in 198 through 202, and then the program-specific sections follow after that in the 200s. Cheer is specifically located in section 260, and so Vina is going to visit with us a little bit about the type of items you can find there, the information and resources that are available. Vina?
So in section 260 of our cheer, or of the bylaws, are our cheer specific. That's where you'll find what division you're in, rules for practicing, the rules for the actual TAPS competition, how many minutes can you have on music, and what's the max. So the logistical part of the contest with regard to what your routine can consist of is found in section 260. It also has content standards for music, apparel, what props are able to be used, which ones are allowed at our events. There's also the performance requirements, such as the time limits and the scoring basics. A part of our cheer, in our cheer rules, we do state that we will follow the National Federation of High School Spirit rules, and we'll help you find how to find those later on in the presentation. But I do want to just stress that it's not just our TAPS rules that we are following, but we are using the NFHS Spirit rule handbook with regard to safety and legalities and things like that. We have a poll question coming up, and it is, how many years have you coached cheer at your school?
You should see the quick poll jump up on the middle of your screen there, if you could just let us know. About 15% of you have submitted so far. I'm going to leave this open a little bit longer.
Well, come over to me, John. This is Steve, and we're talking about student eligibility. And first of all, student eligibility is outlined in the Constitution and bylaws. And in the Constitution, they're not going to change unless we get an amendment. So we still have the rules about not being 19 prior to September 1st. There must be a full-time student, initially enrolled in 9th grade, not more than 4 years ago, and high school student in good standing. But the bylaws are things that can be changed and adjusted by the board. And Robert's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that are going to be different this year.
All right, thank you, Steve. There is, we all know that we had issues to deal with as we finished the spring, moved through the summer, and then look toward beginning the fall semester with regard to the type of education our respective schools are going to be able or choose to deliver. We know that online, we know that virtual is a reality for a lot of our schools. So as we looked at that particular challenge over the course of the summer, being a full-time day student has always been a requirement for eligibility. That always required 4 courses, and those courses are outlined in Section 82, but 4 courses that were taken on your campus in person. This year, we've allowed a little flexibility with what our schools are having to do. So approved educational models this year will include, you still have to be a full-time day student, you still have to take those 4 courses, but that's now defined as you can be brick and mortar in person, you can have an alternative education, virtual or online, or you can have some combination of that. So that's some flexibility that's allowed this year. That's for this year only at the present time, but that's an eligibility change that hopefully will help some of your students navigate the world of education, but also be able to participate in TAPS. Next, we're going to look at some health and safety issues. Brian?
I think it's important as we move forward too, it's your own school's rules that are going to dictate how you practice at your school. If you're brick and mortar and they're coming every day, or if they're virtual, it'll be up to your school administration and you to work through the details of exactly when and how and what's required when they're on your campus. The National Federation of High Schools, State High School Associations, NFHS, and TAPS, we are an affiliate member in our partners, Children's Health Andrews Institute. Go back and look at health and safety. Cheerleading continues to be one of the opportunities that presents itself when it comes to injury. So emergency action plans, what do you do? How do you do it if an injury occurs? Student health awareness, making sure that we look at performance and appearance enhancing drugs, first aid, concussion, cardiac arrest, and then as we go back through there, National Federation of Cheer and Dance Safety. One of those situations also occurs, a lot of the safety courses are offered when you go to camp or through your other studies. This is just an additional option with the National Federation. And then the National Federation of High Schools did commission an aerosol study, which basically is where the particles leave your mouth when you breathe or scream, etc. And again, it indicates that the 6-foot distancing as well. If you want to do a deep dive into the details, you can sure do that on the NFHS page. But the bottom line is masks do help. And it's good to see the background and the story that goes behind that from an athletic and an opportunity. Cheerleaders do need to have their medical history form in rank 1. We'll speak to that later on, and they do need a physical. I know that the UIL has changed a few rules this year, but basically they'll need to be getting a real physical as soon as they can, as soon as their doctors allow. Obviously, some offices are closed to being able to do that right now. Again, that will be up to your local control in your school as to how soon or how often you require that. So let's jump over to the National Federation Learn, nfhslearn.com. Once you go up there, you'll click on the word courses, and then as you scroll down through there are the courses that they offered. Somewhere within that long litany of things become the courses that we're talking about. If you haven't had first aid or safety at your school, you can also take that course. Some cost money, some don't. We'll jump over to the NFHS. This is nfhs.org. we'll have that screen and we'll send that out as well. But nfhs.org, this is where you can find the aerosol study. So if you scroll down a little bit right there in the middle, we'll click on aerosol study, and this goes back and offers that opportunity for you to go back and do a deep dive into what those rules found when they went there. So health and safety primary for everything we do, especially during this COVID virus. Each school is going to have its own protocol, and Robert's going to get into a little bit deeper dive later on the protocols we're going to require for COVID when you're performing, prior to, and after. So we'll lead it on back out. Dina, talk to us a little bit about the communication aspects of TAPS.
So communication is key in us having a great season. Most of the information that we give to you will be through our website. Sometimes we'll also send follow-up emails. So our website, taps.biz, has a fine arts webpage, and then it also has individual activity pages. So Will, if you could take us to taps.biz. The taps.biz website has a menu bar at the top with fine arts. If you click on fine arts, you'll see our fine arts page and all the things that we offer with TAPS. A lot of people ask, why is cheer under fine arts and not under athletics? That's a great question. Cheer is definitely an athletic activity, but for the sake of having a little more flexibility in some of the rules, it falls under the fine arts section with TAPS. That means you don't have dead week and other types of restrictions about camps and when your kids can practice with coaches and things like that. So it does fall under fine arts. And under the performing arts, Will, if you'll click cheer, this is the TAPS cheer page. And so on this page, there's a red menu bar that has rules, frequently asked questions, register teams, honors, contact us. That rule section, it has TAPS and the NFHS Spirit rule book there. If you'll scroll down, Well, this is also where you're going to find our important dates. And on the right, you'll see our blog posts. Usually the latest 2 will show up there, and you can always click older entries to see any other emails that we might have sent posted there. Also on that page, we'll keep up with updating throughout the season, our awards when the event's finished, the any competition documentation such as the mascot things. And then further down, you'll see the rubrics and the progressions and deduction sheets. And so this is where you will find everything that you'll need for our event. And so when we have a new document to share, we'll also post it here. Back to the slideshow, we are talking about communication. And so when we send you information, we are sending it from your Rank 1 email address. So it is very important that you as a cheer coach and your assistant coaches are in our Rank 1 database. And from there, when we send out mass communications, we will pull those emails from that system, and we'll be sending the communication mainly through there. But we will also post it on our website on that sidebar, and then it'll also show up. I failed to mention on that web page, the Fine Arts web page, there's a director's corner. So you can click on there, and it'll actually show you the latest of the cheer messages. If you need to contact us, you'll send an email to info@taps.biz. This actually goes to our help desk center that the entire TAPS office manages. With sending it to info@taps.biz, it allows us to be able to share emails within our staff to the right person. So an email might have some questions regarding eligibility, but then it also, you might have some other questions that have to do with a cheer stunt or something like that. And by sending it to info@taps.biz, it allows us to assign it to different people and it not just get lost in the email world. So we encourage you to use info@taps.biz. Also on our website, there is a contact us button on that red bar on your cheer page, as well as just on the main page. So it very much is important for you to have the correct email into Rank 1. And with that, we're going to talk about what Rank 1 is and how to use it.
Thanks, Savina. Rank 1 has put a lot of the efforts we've had this past few months have been into the fine arts side of the Rank 1 program. But like all programs we've had, it's only as good as the inputs that we get. So make sure that you've inputted all the directors fine arts directors, athletic directors into rank 1. The communication that we get will either be through a rank 1 push, but more likely it'll be an email, and that email will be the email address that we pull from rank 1. So make sure that information is in there accurately, double check it, update it, so we can be able to keep that line of communication going. Also, if you need assistance with rank 1, rank 1 does have a help desk that can help you with some of the technical factors and also some of the different services you can do beyond TAPS. But a lot of help can come from contacting the TAPS office, especially Rhonda and Kelly. Don't hang up if you hear my voice. I can always transfer you to Rhonda and Kelly when it comes to rank 1, but they are learning how to get you through the system as quickly and easily as we can. So again, ask questions, double check, look at the tutorials that they have, and you'll be okay. And Robert's going to go into a little bit more detail about rank 1 and the entries.
All right, thank you, Steve. As Vina mentioned and Steve mentioned, it's very important that we have good contact information. So if you're the head cheer coach, or if you're an assistant coach, whatever that role might be at your school, make sure that you are in rank 1, you've created a profile, it's complete, it's accurate, it's updated, and then once that's done, you can go in and complete your professional acknowledgement of rules and your scope requirements, and then you'll be in compliance and good to go. If you have other roles at the school, make sure those are in there as well, because we try to send our emails specific to the group that it applies to, and not inundate you with emails that aren't relevant. But if you do have other roles, we need those in as well to make sure you're getting that communication. And then the next one is your students. All your students need to be in rank 1. That's our database for eligibility. That's where you create your rosters. For our sports, that's where they report their scores and all those kinds of things that help us track what's going on with all of our schools and all of our activities. Every student should be in rank 1. If they were in your school last year, they were promoted within the system, they should already be there. If you have incoming freshmen, or if you have students new to your school, those need to be added. And then once they're in there, the parents go in. If they're new, they set up a new profile, they answer some questions and fill out the forms that are necessary. If they were in there last year, they'll update their profile this year. They do that every year to make sure the information is accurate and up to date. They sign their acknowledgement of rules as students and parents, and complete that information. And as Brian mentioned earlier, we need medical information in the system. We don't see any of that information. That's private, that's privileged information, but we do need to know that it's in the system. Rank 1 is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so they're very good about protecting that information. But we do need to know that everybody's participating in our activities in the world of cheer. They've completed that medical history, they've had a physical done, and all that information is in there. You might have school-based forms that you add to rank 1. That's one of the options that's available. Permission forms, travel forms, those kind of things. When all of that's been done, then they've pretty much completed everything they need. As you build your rosters, you'll create your team, you'll pull your students from your database over to your roster, and as you do that, you'll see that student is either red or green, shadow behind their name, based on whether they've completed all their information or not. Red means they're still missing some information or some forms, and you can click on that student and figure out what those are. Green means they've completed everything required for the activities they're participating in, and they would be good to go. Students should not participate in any TAPS competitions until they're fully eligible. If you have any questions at all about that, reach out to our office and we can help you. John, I think we've got a poll question coming up next.
Yes, sir. All right, folks. How many years has your school participated in TAPS cheer?
Okay. And now we're going to move on to resources. We put together some very nice resources in the office, and Vina has, to try to help organize you and direct you to the right information. So Vina, tell us a little bit about what's available for our cheer coaches.
So I've already taken you to our website where you're going to find all the resources. I just wanted to go in a little bit more detail of what's in your toolkit, because equipping yourself is going to maximize your program and help your the development of your program and of your student organization. So in the toolkit, we will also have we have a checklist that has step-by-step what you need to do for the year. So it will outline reminders. Go to rank 1, set up your profile, establish your roster. And it's just a quick checklist that will help you stay in sync with what needs to happen and when. Now, it's not doesn't include everything like set up a school bus and get your, it might have those things, but remember there are some things for your school that might not be for others. But as far as the TAPS event, there's a checklist that kind of runs through the scope and sequence of our event. Those rubrics, you need to be looking at those right now already, looking at them and helping you determine how your routines are going to be. Our event is in December, and so it is important for you to already know where you want to be headed. And so those are on the website. The judges' ranges are also there. What is considered a higher skill versus intermediate. And then also we have our hotel resources. Now I know that some of your schools will use your athletic director or athletic secretary to help arrange your hotel stays that you need, but a lot of you will also just do that yourself. So I just want to point out that we do have a hotel partner, Red Pen Incentives, and they can help you get your hotels set for our event, as well as other events that you have throughout the year. And then the NFHS Learn we've already talked about. I just want to reiterate that those are great courses to do, even if your school doesn't require those, just to have a refresher. Some of them are, less than 30 minutes. Some of them are a little bit longer. But the cheer and dance safety one is pretty in depth with how important it is to make sure that you are having safe practices, as well as putting together routines that are safe. So we have a message from our Red Pen Incentive sponsor to talk about how to manage your hotel reservations.
TAPS family, I'm Kelly Ditto with Red Pen Incentives and Red Pen Travel. We are absolutely thrilled to be the appointed convention manager, sponsorship manager for some new partners, as well as the hotel management partner. Unfortunately, we missed seeing you all at the convention this year. We tried really hard to pull it off, but it just wasn't in the cards. But please mark your calendar for next June 7th through 9. It's going to be a fantastic convention, and we will make up for missing this one. I want to talk to you briefly today about hotel blocks. So I know this is a bit of a burden for many of you guys, trying to figure out how to move your team, get the best, most efficient hotel rates, as well as logistics of just coordinating it as we move the TAPS events all over the state. I am thrilled to announce that I have a fantastic new back-end technology partner that's going to be helping Red Pen Travel be even more efficient with our hotel bookings. We will also be using our collective purchasing power to get better rates for you all. To quickly walk you through the simple platform of how you can either use our group blocks to get the best rates that we've collectively negotiated, or I have a dedicated team standing by to help you with your individual group blocks, figuring out the best rate and making sure that logistically it's an easy process to do. So as we move into this fall, goodness, who knows what it's going to look like. But with TAPS and all of our partners, we're here to try to maneuver it together with you to make it as smooth as possible. Looking forward to working with you all. Have a great day.
Yes, and we're thrilled to have Kelly on board as one of our partners with TAPS. And again, it will help you at the school level, finding the best price, saving you the time. Use them as much or as little as you would like. Also, they'll stand there and be with you in case you have to cancel rooms, especially with the situation we're in right now. And again, that's going to be as big a help as anything else that we can talk about. But talking about dates and things that are on the calendar, I'm going to hand it over to Brian.
The first important date is going to be September the 1st. That's when your participation form is due. So make sure that you've talked with your fine art and your athletic director to make sure if you're going to participate in the TAPS championships this year that you include cheer as one of those options on your participation form. The senior transfer deadline, if you have seniors that transfer in after August the 15th, give us a call. We'll be glad to walk folks through that. Same thing is true of international students. If students are not a citizen of the United States and they have not been previously approved for play, that must be taken care of. But that all comes when they fill out their student profile in rank 1. So hopefully that doesn't even cross your desk. Entry deadlines, we did have to move the contest later this year as a result of some changes we made to the schedule starting later into September for the fall sports and fall activities. So cheer moved back to December 7th and 8th. That's a Monday, Tuesday, December 7th and 8th. Still looking at Bell County Expo Center if we can squeeze it in there and if we're allowed to participate. Our entry deadline will be thereabouts to November the 23rd. So a couple of weeks ahead, that week before Thanksgiving, that'll be the time when you need to get all your entry information, your photographs and your cheer rosters, etc. So, and our convention, we were unable to do so because COVID shut McLennan County and then in the process shut our convention down, but we're looking at returning to get together in July of 2021. So our championship event, we're looking forward to it, December 7th, 8th. We hope to see you all there. If the COVID will let us come and we're able to perform December 7th and 8th. All right, Steve, tell us about that championship event.
Yeah, we're to our favorite part of the presentation is the championship event. And Vina and Chris are going to walk us through what's going to happen on the big days.
So just to give you an overview, if you haven't been to our event, we have our spirit and our traditional competition of the cheer routines. You'll warm up in an area and then you'll come to the big room and perform. And this year we're going to offer what's really exciting to me is a clinic. So right after your performance, you'll exit the stage and go on back to a place where you'll be able to watch your video of what you just did and meet with a clinician. And so this clinician will have just watched your show with you. They'll take you to another area and they will give you immediate feedback of what just happened. This is a time of encouragement for them to just really take advantage of the girls just being super excited, guys too, but just being super excited about what just happened on the floor and to spend some time just really letting you enjoy the moment, but also give you some pointers on what you might be able to do before the next day, before you come out for round 2. And so that clinic will happen immediately after. And then we also have our individual showcases that we've done the last couple of years. You saw that in the pre-roll where we had the jump off and the tumble off. And so we plan to do that again this year. And then we also have our mascot competition that has grown the last few years, and it is really exciting to see these mascots just put on a little show for us. And so that's basically the competition day for the first day, and then we come back the second day for a repeat of your performance with you taking in consideration the things that happened day 1, and you perform again for round 2. We do have a new spirit competition that we added 2 years ago, and I think it went over quite well with the schools that don't necessarily do stunting and tumbling. And Chris is going to talk a little bit about the difference between the two and how you decide what fits your school the best.
Thanks, Vina. Hey everybody, Chris Henson here with Express Cheer. I love that TAPS is offering both of these opportunities. And Vina mentioned just a little bit about the spirit category. This really is more indicative of that traditional game day, but with that competition vantage point. So being able to kind of beef up what you do naturally and on a regular basis on those Friday nights or at those football games. So representing like the band chant, your fights on the crowd leading, what it really allows you to do is focus in on the technical skills of cheerleading and not necessarily the same kind of performance, which is what you guys refer to as traditional. I know a lot of schools looked at it as, or some schools looked at it as a step down or we're not good enough. That is in fact not the case at all. These are very different categories, and training your kids to compete in those categories, the way you approach that is also very different. And being innovative in that spirit category. So, I mean, finding creative ways to include your props, signs, megaphones, whatever it is, some of the visual stuff that you can do with your palms and things of that nature. So it leaves a ton of room for you to get super creative. And it also, I think, entices some of those kids who might not have the same skill sets. Maybe you're not a school that tumbles, or you're not able to hit the rubric in that traditional score sheet. So this is a really good opportunity to be able to highlight just really great cheerleading. And then of course there's the traditional category, which is the more performance, which is that kind of souped up, ding, ding, ding kind of music and whips and all that good stuff that is kind of associated with this kind of an event. There's still that crowd leading portion to it, but then you have a ton of other technical skills that are pushed into it. That includes your stunts and your pyramids and your tosses and your tumbling. So I think they're great viable options. And what I expressed to Vina as we kind of went through this, if you're a school that hasn't made any decisions about what stunting looks like for you this year, Spirit is a really good choice because there's no reason that the kids can't social distance. So versus having to call this season a wash, if you have historically been in the traditional category, Spirit might be a really good place for you to move to this year to be able to ease your parents, meet the expectations for administration in your specific school, etc. So if there was any time, now would be the time to move into that Spirit division if your school is giving you some limitations, and then you already know what you're working towards versus having to wait to see what's coming down the pipeline. So
we did have a TAPS talk that John, our director of media, had put together with some of our cheer committee members. Amber, Amanda, and Riley were committee leaders last year and talked to many of you throughout the season. They put together an interview to talk about their experience with TAPS cheer over the last few years, as well as go into a little bit detail about the Spirit versus the traditional. You can listen to that TAPS talk on our taps.biz website and taps.biz/talk. There's also a TAPS talk button at the bottom of our webpage. And so it's a great podcast of what you could expect at our event. Even if you've been, you should take a listen to what our leaders had to say about Spirit versus traditional, as well as just our event. There's also Will and John worked to condense our championship over the 2 days into a TAPS rewind, which took out all the dead space in between waiting on the next group to come on, and they condensed the 2-day event into a smaller video, so that if you want to see what teams have been doing and you want to see, maybe you weren't there early enough to see what happens with our Spirit event, check out that TAPS rewind video. It's on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/tapsbiz. And you can see what it looks like in the actual competition setting. Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about how they can build their routine based on the rubrics, and what does it take to fill out those rubrics for the traditional and the Spirit? Like what can they do as a coach now to prepare for this competition?
Okay, great. Thanks, Vina. So I think this particular slide really lends itself to that traditional, more performance category. So when we talk about 50% plus one, I'm just going to use super easy numbers. Let's say if we have a team of 16, then half of that would be 8. Then we need to add one more. So in this particular, I'm talking about like 9. And so that would be like your jump category, your tumbling category, things of that nature. So for you to get into the ranges, you need, if we're talking about 16 kids, you need at least 9 of those athletes performing that skill to put you in that range. I want to remind you that the way that the TAPS score sheet has been designed is it really, really, really rewards execution. So for a lot of you that go and look at those score sheets and you look at those categories where it says like, basic, intermediate, advanced, elite, and you're like, oh my goodness, we're never going to be able to get in that range. You don't have to get in the range to win that category. What you need to do is execute the skills that your squad can do really well. So if you have a team of kids who have beautiful back handsprings, and that only is going to put you in that basic or intermediate category, then take those points and make sure that that skill is executed flawlessly, because the points for execution are so much higher. So follow my logic here. A team that has some kids maybe try to throw back tucks or layouts or full twisting layouts, and they don't land them, or they don't execute them well, or their legs are bent, or things of that nature, even though they're going to get in the high category, they're going to give away so many points in execution that the team that only throws back handsprings, or possibly they don't even throw that, maybe they just have incredible cartwheels and roundoffs, they could actually beat you in that category. So really work to the strengths of your team. I know that when I work with teams, we really talk about, hey, we're going to put what you're strongest at in these categories, and you really need to focus on your skill set, not what you think someone else is going to show up with, because you can't control that. And I just remind your kids of that when you go through it. When we go to the 50% plus one, and we'll talk about stunt groups in this scenario, we're still using that number of 16. We can talk about traditional stunt groups. Traditional stunt groups, we typically will divide by 4. So in a team of 16, you're going to want to have, you could have up to 4 stunt groups, but for you to be 50% plus 1, you need 3 stunt groups. So at that point, what that means is you could go to have front spots on those. So now you're utilizing 15 kids, and you have an athlete that is extra that can be used. Maybe they were your main tumbler, so maybe they get to rest and breathe for a minute. That also gives you the opportunity to make sure that those stunts are safe, they're executing them properly. So having that additional person on there will also, once again, help you hit that execution score. So let's just pretend there's a team of 16, and one of those squads puts up 4 stunts. So they don't put any front spots, they use every single kid. And then the other team only puts up 3 stunt groups, they put front spots on them, and then they have that additional athlete left over. Both of those teams fall into the same category as long as they are hitting the skills, if you follow me for that. So they're maxing out what they need to do. So for all intents and purposes, those teams become even in that way. Now, of course, that team that puts up 4 stunt groups is taking a larger risk. So if they're able to hit everything and maximize, remember, we have some room in that range. So potentially, if the team that puts up 4 stunts versus the team that puts up 3 stunts, and they both do exactly the same thing, execute it flawlessly, exactly the same, then in this scenario, that team that put up 4 stunts, even though you'd be in the same range, they potentially could outscore you. But we're talking about risk versus reward and being smart with our kids and making sure that we're safe. So play your score sheet correctly, pay attention to what you're doing, and you also don't want it to be stressful. This should be a fun, exciting, energetic event that your kids build up to. There should not be more stress than that's already needed. So that is when we're talking about that traditional. So think about this too, when we talk about 50% plus 1, maybe you have some kids that might be carrying your routine from a tumbling standpoint. So you can choreograph, that kid doesn't necessarily have to be in your jumps. So that kid could have a break. So we're also, what the score sheet does is it allows you to spread out the responsibility amongst the kids. So you're also then highlighting what they're great at doing. So that's kind of on that traditional performance aspect. When you guys go to your spirit category or game day category, you're looking at utilizing all of your athletes. Once again, the 50% plus 1 doesn't play into the spirit categories the same way as it does into traditional. But if you're going to incorporate your jumps, which you should, because that's on your score sheet, once again, you want to have at least, in this category, 16 kids on the floor, 9 of them should jump. So you could use your best 9 jumpers to highlight those kids to help you hit your score sheet correctly. All 16 don't have to jump for you to hit your scores. Any more that you want me to speak on that, Bina?
No, I think that's great. And when y'all have questions about how is it that we need to do that, or can you help me if I've got this scenario, feel free to send those to info@taps.biz and we can help you with your exact representation of what you have in front of you. One thing that we introduced this past year was a rating versus the ranking in our awards. And traditionally we have just ranked our teams, and the top team is the winner, and then 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, and so on. Last year we incorporated a rating system which awarded those teams that are bringing a fantastic, superior performance to the floor and may not be hitting in the elite category with flawlessness happening. And that superior rating last year was given to schools that didn't have deductions or just really had superior performances. And so it's not a participation award. I mean, we had some schools that ranked 3rd, 4th, 5th, that maybe had deductions, but they scored a little bit, they scored high enough to rank. But then we also had some teams that were ranked lower in the overall scoring, but they had a superb performance. And so they walked away with the superior plaque, something to take back to their school saying, you know what, we set out to do this specific thing and we did it so well, and received a superior rating award. And so I want to highlight that again this year. There's an opportunity not only to rank in our championship order, but also to be awarded for what you put on the floor. And so, like Chris said, it's all about maximizing in the safest manner. You don't want to push your kids so far that it's not safe anymore, but we do want you encouraging them to push themselves to get better and to increase their skills, all in the same time of being safe. We do award the top 4 ranked teams in each division, and we have 6 divisions. And then we have the individual awards for the jumps and the tumbles, where the finalists are on the jump squad or the tumble squad, where they get a certificate for that. And then the winner, we give a medal to those students that were the top performers. Our mascot also competes in the contest, and we do give awards for those. The main thing is teaching fundamental cheer stuff and just really making sure you are helping the kids to understand why they do this. They've got lots of talent, and just being a cheerleader is a pretty exciting program to be a part of, but making sure that you're teaching them it's about working hard and then sharing their personality with the audience, and just really helping them to learn how to put on a great show and showing off all the work that they've done. Now, we do have some protocols, obviously, with the COVID stuff coming up, and so we're going to talk a little bit about what that might look like for us this season.
All right, thank you, Vina. Obviously, since last spring, we here in the TAPS office have been looking at what's out there, what's happening, what are the latest guidelines, recommendations, and protocols that are discussed or being put in place regarding the respective activities that we're all seeing on a day-to-day basis. So about Friday a week ago, almost 2 weeks ago, we released here from the TAPS office our 2020 Return to Action protocols. You can find those on our TAPS website. You go to the homepage. Right there on the homepage, you'll see a Return to Play Fall 2020 link. If you click on that link, it will take you to another page. You'll see a blue button there that's called 2020 Return to Action Protocols. That's about an 18-page document. It's got a lot of information about some guidelines, minimum standards that we've established here in the TAPS office for our member schools, expectations you can have if you're hosting or you're attending a TAPS activity, everything from things that you should do if you're hosting an activity with regard to your facilities. We cover mask, we cover face mask expectations. Face masks will be required at our events. As we sit here today, we have a disclaimer on everything we say. We know things change on a daily basis, so it could change, but as we sit here today, the protocols we have issued say that masks are required unless you're an active participant in that particular activity or competition. That is an exemption, but our fans will be wearing masks, all of our staff. As you come and go into the facility, you'll be expected to wear a mask, but when you're actually participating, that is not required. You certainly are welcome to. If that's something that your local school level, that your administration has decided they want you to wear a mask at all times, you will be allowed to do that, but it will not be a requirement. You can go to that document. I encourage you to do so if you haven't already. It's quite extensive. It has a lot of description and detail and information about those things that you can expect when you are participating in a TAPS competition. We'll also have some possible event restrictions, and Vina is going to visit with us a little bit about that. Vina?
Thanks, Robert. With our event being so far away, I mean, it's December, obviously things might change, and we'll have to make adjustments to what the current situations are. But just to give you an idea of what you might expect, we've been at the Bell County Expo the last couple of years, and it is a huge facility. By being in this facility, it allows us to space our teams out in the audience. We might have to limit the number of fans that you bring, or there might not be a restriction on that come December. But know that we will be putting things in place that will help us to have a safe event. The schedule might be spaced out a little bit more to where we can have more time in between to sanitize areas and do things that will help us to keep a controlled environment. It's possible that we have some specific places for your team to have to perform in, or perhaps specific bathrooms that we assign in the arena. So just know that we will be working with the facility to make sure that it's a place that we can perform safely. As always, we've live streamed our event, and so we know that you'll have fans and parents that might not feel comfortable traveling with your team, and so we will continue to have that live stream possibility option for your fans to watch from home. But also know that we are looking into other possibilities in regard to how we can still make this happen. If things start, schools start up in 3 months, things look different, know that we are making every possibility of contingencies so that this event can still happen in some fashion. We have a poll coming up, and do you plan to participate in TAPS Cheer this season? And basically on here, I just want to know if you are looking at traditional or spirit, or if you're not sure yet, that's okay. It kind of helps us over the next few weeks to know this. When you turn your participation contract in, it simply is telling us if you're going to participate in cheer, and we don't really know one or the other until almost right before the event. So this poll right here is really going to help me to know what some resources that we'll be able to send you guys if we've got larger numbers in one area or the other.
All right, I'm going to close this down and pass it back to the office.
Thank you, John. We have a few questions. First question, Vina, let me see. We'll put the first question to you. Can a team or can a school compete in multiple categories, in more than one category that year?
So last year we did allow for exhibition teams to come, and so we want you to submit your varsity team. You can have a varsity team that chooses either spirit or traditional to compete for the championship. And then we will have an exhibition category that is just an open category that you can submit a second team for exhibition. And depending on how many we have in those categories, we'll still give awards for those. It just may not be a Henderson championship category. And so you can choose your varsity team to do traditional, and then if you have a JV or freshman team, or even just a pep squad that does sideline cheer, maybe your school has both, and you've got a competition cheer team that does the traditional, and then you've got a sideline cheer team. And you can decide for your school, but for this year, we'll be saying your varsity team, or whatever team you're claiming as varsity, will compete in one or the other, and then you can have additional teams in our exhibition category.
Okay, thank you, Vina. I have another question, number 2 here. I'm going to direct this to Chris. Is it wiser for weak jumpers not to jump? If you have all girls jump and there are a few low jumpers, is that more of a deduction than just having them not jump?
So that's a great question. So the judges can't score something that you aren't doing, but they can only judge what you are. So if those kids are not jumping, but you're still meeting your 50% plus 1, then you're also hitting the highest category. So for example, for you to max out in jumps, it's I believe, if I remember this rubric correctly, it's 3 connected jumps plus an additional jump, and those must have variety. So as we'll use that example of 16. So if there's 16 on your team and 9 of those kids all do the highest skill set possible, and they also execute it flawlessly, then you're going to be in the high range and you're also going to get your points. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, Chris. Well, the next couple of questions are going to be directed to Robert.
All right, thank you, Steve. We got a couple of questions here about cheerleaders cheering on the sideline. Does that classify them as participants where they do or don't have to wear a mask? Here's our approach on that. Cheerleaders are definitely participants when they're cheering, whether it's either on the sideline or on the field as part of a halftime ceremony. We're leaving that to your local school authority for them to develop their protocols. If they allow you to do that, TAPS certainly allows it. If they require something more restrictive, if they require you to wear a mask on the sideline, then we would say you need to follow that. But from a TAPS perspective, if you are cheering at an activity, you're definitely a participant. TAPS would not require you while you're doing that to wear a mask. Otherwise, it's up to your local school authority. All right, we have another question here about, Vina, I'll direct this one to you.
Number 6.
I know there's an individual jump and a tumble competition. Would you consider having an individual stunt competition? This would be for maybe like a group of 4 that might want to do a skill or a stunt. Have we had any discussion about doing that?
You know, Chris and I have already been in conversation about other things that we can offer at our cheer event. At our dance event last year, we offered solos and small ensembles just because we know your kids want more opportunity to participate. So this is definitely something we can consider. Kind of like the small ensembles with dance, to be able to have one more place where your kids can shine. So definitely, thanks for the suggestion. Chris and I, like I said, will be working on other opportunities for your kids at the event.
Thank you, Vina. Like I said, if you have any more questions or if we didn't answer the question today, please forward it to us at info@taps.biz. And there's some specific questions that definitely for your school, again, it would be better for us to be able to speak with you, visit with you a little bit, or exchange emails. But we appreciate everybody jumping on with us today. I think it was an hour well spent talking about cheer and getting us off with a great preseason webinar, and also having Chris joining the team this year is a huge plus, and we're very enthusiastic to have his expertise and also to have him be present as we go into the year. And again, he'll be available all year leading up to the competition. So again, a big plus. And as Vina has done, she has stacked one good event after the other, and we've built good cheer events and gotten better each year. So we look forward to another great one this year, no matter how it comes and no matter how it looks like. What it looks like, excuse me. Now I'm going to hand it off to John to take it home. Thank you.
Okay, folks. Like I said, the recording of this webinar is going to be sent to your email address tomorrow. It looks like I had a couple of questions coming at the very last minute. Sorry we didn't have time for those. If you send us an email, info@taps.biz, we will get to those. We'll get back to you. You're going to get a link to the recording. You're going to get the link will also have the handout, the continuing education, which you could also download right now if you wanted to. We're also going to include links to the podcasts and to the YouTube videos that Vina mentioned that talk about the difference between traditional and spirit groups and all those interviews and that great stuff about our cheer competition last year. So that's going to be made available to you. If you need anything else, again, please let us know, info@taps.biz, and you folks enjoy the rest of your day.